Welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrinala. I come to you from the Pacific Northwest where I live with my partner, our 2 kitties, and 2 adopted Mustangs. Information about the Wildhorse adoption program will be in the episode description box. This podcast covers knitting projects, my horsemanship journey, and my other passions like vegetable gardening and bicycling. If you're new here, I hope you find the content interesting. If you're a returning viewer, it's always great to have old friends. The format of this channel typically includes musings on an early walk to the barn to feed the horses, then knitting content, some catch up on the horsemanship journey, and finally more musings or maybe a little bicycling footage if I was lucky enough to get out. Enjoy, and I hope to see you soon. Good morning, friends. Today is it's not Friday, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday, November 26th, 2025, the day before Thanksgiving. Decided to podcast early this week for a couple of reasons. One is that Friday we will be going and getting our Christmas tree and things like that. So and I have a finished object for you, and I have a new cast on, so why not today? Can you believe that December is just right around the corner? I know, it's something else. So, pardon me while I grab my gloves, get ready to go outside on our walk to the barn. All right. Yesterday it rained and rained and rained. And just see where I'm going to point you. I don't know if it's still dripping out. I don't think it's raining right now. So point you at least so you're not completely faced in the dark out there while I put my boots on. I'm wearing the tall rubber boots because it's muddy. Anyway, what should we talk about? Let's talk about Vlogmas, because Vlogmas starts on Monday. I am not planning to do Vlogmas in part because I work full time and I don't think there's enough variation in my day to keep it very interesting. Also, December is actually a pretty busy month for me in terms of having to commute down south to work. Normally I work from home like 99.9% of the time. We're at the pump house. Turning on the water to the barn. It's very dark out. I haven't seen the moon lately. Anyway, I have to work next Friday, so I'm taking Monday off. And this kind of brings me to the new cast on, but I actually want to save that for the knitting segment. So I may podcast Monday because I'm taking it off instead of working on, because I have to work on Friday is what I'm trying to say. Trying to turn on my headlamp so I can see still very drippy out. There's been deer, so I don't want to surprise them, and I don't want them to surprise me. But yesterday when I fed in the morning, Bragi was just really upset about something, and I assume it was deer. And then later, when I fed in the evening, there were deer. The barn lines don't appear to be on. I'm not sure why. There were deer in the front yard, so they're around. That is very curious. The barn lights are... Hi, Bragi. I can see Bragi's eyeballs. Anyway, yeah, it's very distracting when there's something that's not quite right, when you expect it to be a certain way. So I'll see if I can get those barn lights on. Well, it looks like they're trying. They're just not on yet. So we'll turn on the yard light, so that will help, and probably the feed room light. See the house that way across the creek, and turn on the yard light so we can see out there and see where O is, and turn on the tack room light. Look at this. I don't know if you can see that, but that is slug slime. That's a very ambitious slug. So I'm going to get to feeding. Let's see where O is first. There he is. He's out there. All right, guys. Let's see about getting you guys fed. He has water. Everyone has water. Everything, it looks like it should be, except the barn lights are struggling a little bit. All right, I will get to feeding. Hey friends, good morning. Welcome to the knitting segment of this podcast. I'm still trying to get myself settled here. Hot off the needles, what I'm wearing is the So Faded. I have a lot to say about this. Mistakes were made. I just finished it last night, and it's not blocked yet. So you might see this kind of weird little jog thing. I think that was a beginning of round. The way this works is that you work the yoke back and forth first, then you join in the round somewhere when you start fading, and then work on the round, fade your colors together. I did 3 colors. I think the pattern has 5 or 6 colors. And then once you finish the ribbing on the bottom, you do the sleeves, and I'll talk about those more in a minute, because this is where most mistakes were made. And then you do the ribbing around the neckline. It calls for about a 1/2 inch of ribbing. But since I am always fussing with my necklines, I decided to do almost 2 inches of ribbing. I've talked about the yarn before. The top and the bottom are by a yarn dyer in Idaho. And the middle color is, this more peach color, is Emma's yarn, a yarn dyer out of Florida. They're all, I believe, 75/25 fingering weight yarn. I used a size 4 needle instead of size 5, which the pattern calls for. The ribbing, I think I used the recommended needle size, which was a size 2 or 2.75. I did a gauge swatch, which is how I decided that I was going to use the size 4 or 3.5 millimeter instead of the recommended 5, which is a 3.75 millimeter. I just like I got closer to gauge, and I just like the fabric better. So let's talk about the sleeves. I'm calling this podcast
reverse stockinette the wrong way, because when I did the sleeves, I didn't realize that I had the sleeves, I had the body inside out. And what you'll notice is that the yoke part of the sleeve is in garter stitch. And I think that was one reason why it was hard for me to tell that I was on the incorrect size when I put the sleeves on. I also grossly miscalculated the amount of yarn that I had left. I weighed I knit a row and weighed it again. What I found out is that my scale isn't that accurate. It doesn't do like 1.5 grams, or each row was 0.3 grams. So I'm not surprised that I have this much yarn left from the yoke. That is one thing that I wish I would have done more, was knit more of this color on the yoke. But, it's a pretty color, so I don't mind. And that dyer is Trilogy yarns. So I'm going to keep that. I believe this is, is that Glamorous? Oh, sorry. No, that's the, this is Jewel, is the colorway. The bottom is Peony, this bright pink that's here. And then the middle, like I said, was Emma's yarn, and it does not have a colorway name that I can find, unless it's under one of these stickers that I'm not going to tear off because that would ruin it. So I ended up with, I don't know, I'm not quite sure how I ended up with 2 balls of yarn. I must have ripped something out and redid it. I'm not entirely sure, but I ended up with a lot more yarn than I had thought I would. And then this yarn, Peony, I ended up with that much. So my intention was to do full sleeves, and full sleeves are knit in stockinette, which I think, given the amount of sleeve that I did, which was basically here, from here to here, I think the stockinette would have looked funny with the garter stitch. So it ended up being a happy accident. I like, since it's fingering, I don't mind that it's short sleeve. It's more of a tee. I was kind of intending for a more like shoulder season, spring and fall type garment. But now I have this leftover yarn that I can put into my scrappy blanket. I can use for other things. I can probably get a full pair of socks out of this if that's what I choose to do with it. So all that to say, I did a lot of math. So here's all my little calculations of how I was going to make the sleeves even, have enough yarn, do the fade properly, and all that kind of stuff. And then it turned out I was wrong. I had a lot of yarn left over. I don't regret that. So I am going to put the leftover yarn into my blanket stash. I am going to keep out the pattern so I can update my Ravelry notes. I don't have a picture yet. And I think I'm going to block it before I post a picture of this. So that's, since of course I finished something, I needed to start something else. But let me just show you the progress that I've made on the Talvinen. So once I realized I was so close to finishing this one, I kind of put the Talvinen down for a little bit. The Talvinen is by Caitlin Hunter, another fingering weight. This is a colorwork. And I think last time I had split for sleeves. So now I'm just working on round and round in the body. So that's where I am. I don't know if that's showing that well. The pattern calls for like 9 inches of body and then another 6 inches of the colorwork section at the bottom. I think I'm going to do like 7.5 inches of body because I don't need it like draped around my hips. So I want it like just below my natural waistline. That's where I like my sweaters to fall. So I've talked about this sweater quite a bit, so I thought I'd just give you a very short update on this. I'm also using Chogu Red Lace size 4 for the color work. I think there was I think the recommended size was 3, but I tend to, my gauge is tighter when I knit colorwork, so I use 4. Oh, that's what I'm trying to say, is that the stockinette, this plain stockinette section, I'm using the size 3. And this yarn is Emma's yarn in Nightshade, and the accent color is Peony. And then this is a Woolen Women. The contrast color is a Woolen Women, and it is Kentucky Derby. So that's what I am doing with that. This is my float tote, a pattern by Love and Stitches or Nitty Natty. So I love it for color work. I love it that it's in a kind of a bucket shape. So the cast on. So this was rather impulsive. This is another Andrea Mowry. This is an Andrea Mowry pattern if I did not mention it before. The Ooey Gooey socks. So this it's a colorwork pattern. These are the socks. You can do toe up or cuff down. I am doing toe up, which I normally do not like, but the toe up version has a Flegel heel, which is a heel I have not knit before. So I wanted to try that. This pattern, I was also interested, not only because it's colorwork socks, not only because I'm into Andrea Mowry's designs right now, but she is donating a portion of the proceeds to indigenous populations. And it could be a local one to her, and I believe she's back in the Midwest, maybe Michigan again. And I don't recall all the details, but I am always inspired by designers who donate a proceed of their patterns to a cause that I think is that aligns with my values. So another example is Rebecca Clow, who is the Crayabea. She does, I think in the fall, and I haven't participated in this one, but she has a donation, or she supports a charity and matches the proceeds out of her own money for, and I forgot what it's called, but it's a women's health issue, and it's in primarily in Africa, I believe. So supporting that cause to improve women's, and I think it has to do with reproductive health, if I recall correctly. So those of you who watch the Crayabea are probably much more well versed in this, but all that to say, this pattern supports a cause that I also would like to support, so I decided to do it. She also had a knit-along, which I found out about yesterday because I subscribed to her newsletter, and the knit-along starts today. So the intention is to knit the pair of socks over this long weekend. I am working a little bit today. It is supposed to be my day off because Thursday and Friday is my holiday. So anyway, that's way too much detail for this. All that to say, I am working a part of the day, and then I'm taking the rest of the day to get ready for Thanksgiving and work on these socks. So I'm probably going to focus on this project mostly over the weekend. There are some pretty significant prizes. Some of them are yarn prizes, which I do not need yarn. But some of them are pattern prizes, which I'm interested in that to use the yarn that I have. Some of the yarn, though, is yarn I really like. It's Spin Cycle, and I have knit a couple sweaters, colorwork sweaters from Spin Cycle. All that to say, we'll see how much I get done. So, shall I show you the yarn? So, this is out of Stash. This is my contrast color. This is a yarn by Nativity, a hand-dyed yarn. And then this is the other trilogy yarn that was supposed to go in this So Faded, but gosh, it doesn't match. So I put these two colors together. This is the main color and the contrast color, and I started the toe up. It starts with a Turkish cast on, which I'm not very good at. I didn't think I was going to like it, and I tried the, who is it? The Magic cast on. I want to say Joanne, but that doesn't sound right. But I watched the Andrea Mowry's tutorial on the toe up, the Turkish cast on, and I think it's very cute and tidy. So I'm doing a fairly small size because the needles are a size 1, and I did the cast on with the 32-inch Chogu red lace, so 2.25 millimeter. I normally knit the small size of socks in size 0. Once I got to the color work, I switched to these Chogu red lace, these little shorties, the 9-inch circulars, and I have just done the 1 row of color work. So, well, and I'm showing you the inside, so so that's where I'm at so far. So I plan on working on that today. And, you know, once I start working the main color, then I will cast on the second sock, and I will do them somewhat in tandem. So I'm using a bag right now that's a Woolen Women bag. It was part of my retail therapy earlier this year. It's not quite big enough, so I'm going to transfer it to this bag that my mom made that the So Faded was in, because it is definitely big enough. So I'm going to do that right now. I am knitting the number 2 size. So ultimately you end up with 56 stitches on the needles. So that is what I am doing. And this is the case for the little shorty set. So the 9-inch circular set, which I really have been enjoying for color work. So put that bag back in the bag closet. So that's that. Let me look at my notes here. I'm still gift knitting. I thought I would have the second strip of my 100-acre wood blanket done today, because I knit on it a little bit yesterday, and but I don't. So I'm just going to wait until I have another strip done before I share that with you. The other one, this project has been in hibernation. This is a bag also made by my mom. I love the dragonfly. It's a quilted with a zipper, which I really love. This is one of my favorite bags. So these are the Lemontop Socks, and this is a yarn that someone gave me. I really like it, but I don't think I like it for these socks. So I have been ignoring this project. I mean, I think I did the cuff, and that's it. So what you are about to see is me taking it out. I do want to knit this pattern, just not with this yarn. I don't know what I want to do with this yarn, but it's really pretty. And I don't think I want it for socks. So I'm probably going to end up having to find a contrast color. It's got like this kind of cool mint green. I mean, it is primarily a yellow. I got it caught around something. The row counter. Get that out. So I thought I would use a self-striping sock pattern or yarn, Freckled Whimsey. This is one of the, see, it's all caked again. This is one of the Harry Potter series. So it's in this colorway. I think it'll be perfectly appropriate for this to be like the lemon top, and then this to be the main body of the sock. And Kay Jones, who wrote the Lemontop, designed the Lemontop socks, her patterns typically go very well with self-striping yarn. So I need to cake that up and put cast on eventually. Although I don't really, I'm looking at my list again. So I do have my stash down plans. I'm not quite sure what I want to get my stash down to, except that I want to use the yarn that I have and have plans for the scraps. So I'm going to bring my computer up closer to me so I can actually read it. So I want to, in December, I want to finish the Talvinen sweater, that colorwork sweater. And there is a Bakery Bears mkal. It's a shawl. I don't know if I probably won't start on December 1st. I really want to see how it shapes up before I start it. my colors are like pinks and blues and whites, so not particularly Christmassy or holiday colors. And I also have in mind some holiday socks using a West Yorkshire Spinners Christmas colorway that I bought in Door County on Lake Michigan, a little tiny yarn store on Lake Michigan a couple years ago when I went there with my mom and my sister. So I want to get that out of stash. So then, and then next on my list, so sometime in January, I'll do those Lemontop Socks. I want to do a brioche pattern by Veronica Lindberg, who is a Finnish designer, using some repurposed yarn that I've knit a couple things and ripped out a couple times. So I have some gold and blue Brooklyn tweed yarn, fingering weight, that I want to make, I think a rugby shawl is what the pattern's called. These are all in my show notes if you're interested in these patterns. I also have pink Brooklyn tweed yarn, and I want to do the Weekender Light, which is also a pattern by Andrea Mowry. And then I have a light blue lace pattern. Oh, sorry, I just got a text. Light blue lace yarn that I want to make another mini mock-neck tank by Jessie Maid Designs. And then a sea glass sweater by Woolen Pine. And this is a pattern that you can use up a lot of your scraps. So as I work through my blanket, and I still have a lot of scraps from that, I'm planning on doing a scrappy sweater. I would actually like to make a cardigan, but I don't know, because I'm kind of, I think I have 3 cardigans, 2 worsted weight and 1 it's cotton DK weight. So I don't know if there's a way to turn that pattern into a cardigan, but I may try. And then scrappy socks. So that's it for the knitting part. So I was going to talk about just kind of life stuff this week. Plans for December. Like I said, I'm not doing Vlogmas in December. I'll just maintain my weekly podcast as my work schedule permits. I have to commute a lot more in December. I have an in-person meeting next Friday. And then on December 11th, there is a kind of a celebration and an end of year wrap up for a group in public health that I work closely with. There's also, we have like a couple holiday parties in the week of December 16th. So I will be going down 4 times in the next 3 weeks, which is one of the reasons why I am not doing Vlogmas. And yeah, like I said, since I work full time, I mean, there's variation in my day, but I don't know that I can work full time and bring in enough creativity for a daily vlog. So I do hope you find a Vlogmas that you like. I have followed the Crazy Sock Lady. I will follow Nitty Natty. And I don't, the Crazy Sock Lady went back to work full time, so I don't know if she's doing Vlogmas. So those, and maybe a Homespun House, I'm not sure. Those are some new podcasters that I started watching. We've had a lot of rain. That's just been the reality of November. And there isn't really anything particular about that, except that I don't spend much time outdoors, except what I have to do. So I got my fencing project, at least this phase of it, done. Bragi and Odin are still separated while Odin's hoof heals, and it's necessary because when they're together, they play a little too rough, they run around, and that is not helping Odin's hoof. They're both taking it okay. They seem a little bit despondent. I think I said that last week. And, they've just started to hang out closer together near the fence, with the fence between them. So that's okay. I don't have a lesson this week or next week, just due to work schedule, Thanksgiving holiday and work schedule. And then Thanksgiving, we are hosting it, which we have done for many years. And so I'm going to spend at least part of today getting the house kind of ready. I washed the tablecloth already. I need to, make sure that all the placemats are clean and, get some of the herbs scrubbed and, get the refrigerator ready for a plethora of leftovers and all that kind of stuff. So that's part of my plan. Plus a lot of knitting. I think it's supposed to be a rainy weekend. And then we'll get the Christmas tree on Friday and set it up and have our weekend. And I may podcast on Monday because I'm not working Monday either. The farrier's coming, so hopefully I'll have a little bit more news about Odin's hoof. But I'll most likely do the podcast before she comes that afternoon. So that is the update. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you have some fun plans and are able to connect with people that you care about. And I'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.